Hello everybody, this is a video tutorial on how to do the Waiting on the Storm piece I did a couple months back. Y'all requested this piece, so let's go through and explain how to do everything and why I did what I did. I started with this lovely beach background. It's got a lot of nice blues and I wanted this piece to be, blue. And it has the clouds coming in through here, but they're separated like there's something coming towards you, like the storm's getting ready to come. So I felt that this was a really good background to use. I wanted to add a little bit to the background. You can really see that this right here, there's a big difference between the sky and the water, and I kind of wanted to distract from that line a little bit. So to do that, I made a new layer. Oops, I made a new layer. I got a white paintbrush. I made it fairly large. And I painted across this horizon line right here. And we're going to do this to make some mist to distract from that line. And once we've painted the line, we're going to go into blur and then Gaussian blur. And then adjust it to where we're happy with it, if you want a really thin mist or a much thicker mist. In this piece, I actually made a much thicker mist. And you'll see how that plays in here in a little bit. It's got a really nice effect to it. Then I went over and I cut out my model and I resized her. She doesn't quite match the background, so I went to layer styles. Let's see. And I put in an inner shadow. I put in the inner shadow and I tried to match it up with the direction I wanted the light to come from. And you can do that right here in this area. And you can change the color of the shadow if you want. I just kept it on black on this one. I also did on this one a color overlay. In order to do this, in order to do this, to change the color, I went here, grabbed a color from the background that I really liked, and then I went to soft light, right down there. And it's not a huge change with this color, so let's use a darker one. And it doesn't make a huge difference yet, but it will when you add the other color layers. So here's the actual effects I ended up adding. You'll have to play around with it a bit, see where you're happy with the shadows and everything. I noticed that down here on the dress there was a lot of grass on the model. You can see some of the parts where I erased, and the reason for this is I'm actually going to add some grass into here. And I know grass isn't traditional for a beach, but occasionally I've been to a couple beaches where there will be a little bit of grass throughout the sand. So I did feel this was appropriate for the piece and to cover up that grass spot on her dress. After this, I made a new layer, and we're going to use this technique, by the way, to add shadows and highlights in the piece where we want on multiple different layers. But I added a new layer. I went to Edit, Fill, and then instead of foreground color, I put 2% gray and then OK. Once you've got this done, you want to put it into soft light. And in order to use this layer to change the highlights and shadows, what you're going to go do is go into the Dodge and Burn tool. And by doing this, you can now add highlights and shadows wherever you want them. You don't want a very soft brush for this. You can always go back through and smudge if you feel like your edges are too hard. And your smudge tool is right over here. You can use that to blend in the edges. Let me show you the highlights I did do. I did separate layers for each highlight I did. So the first layer I did was on the dress. I added highlights to all of these ridges here. And I also did a little bit with the Burn tool to add depth to some of these shadows here. Alright, now that we've done that, I also made another layer over here where I used a large soft dodge tool in the center to lighten it and a very, very soft burn tool on the edges, just so that you can have, some dark areas here and the light in the center to focus on her more and brighten her up. Here you can see the difference it makes in the piece. The next thing I did after that was I found, here, let's put this on normal. I found a nebula piece that I really liked. This one has a lot of greens, a lot of blues, and because I have a lot of blue in the background here, and then I have green with the grass, that's why I chose a nebula with those colors. And what we're going to do with the nebula is we're going to take it from normal, and by the way, this is what it looks like all the way up. And we'll want to pull the opacity down to about 50-51% on this one. And we'll change the blending mode from normal to overlay to get the best effect. There we go. And you can really see what that does to the piece. It adds a little bit of atmosphere, and it brings some of these colors together. I also added another layer of light spots. Let me pull it all the way back up. Normal. Now these were originally little round light spots like you get through a glass. To get them to go in a direction like this, I want to filter, blur, motion blur, and then you can use this here to decide what angle you want it to blur at. And this one I wanted at a diagonal angle. Diagonal angles are really great in art. They catch the eye, and they also allow movement throughout a piece. So add diagonals wherever you can without distracting from the piece. And so I moved the opacity down on this to 17% to make it not so distracting. And then I moved this one over to soft light. No, wait. No, I actually kept this one on normal. I forgot about that. But you want to keep it really low. Or did I? No, sorry guys. I put this one on linear dodge because if you leave it on normal, you see this line down here from the actual piece. You could smudge that out if you want, but I actually put it on linear dodge because that actually pulls out all the lighter colors, so you can't even see that line down there anymore. So right here, linear dodge on that one. Remember that. From here, the piece is almost done. We're going to add in the light colors, and this part is essential. I find very essential to any photo manipulation piece. You'll want a gradient tool, and in this one you can see in this layer right here that I use this round one here. And you'll want to pick a light color and a dark color, and then you'll want to, pull down and adjust wherever it makes you happy. I did 2 layers. Let me put them on regular first. This one was green. I pulled it down to 28%, and then I put it on soft light. Soft light allows it to be a light color, a layer light color, rather than putting it on normal, where it's just, hey, I'm a color. No, you're wanting to play with the light here. So you want it to be really low, and then you want it to be on soft light. And that adds some green to the piece. It'll correspond with your grass here, and it'll add a little bit of green here in the highlights of her dress. You'll also want to make another layer. In the colors over here, you'll want to pick a light blue up here and a dark blue up here. I chose mine from the background and then made them a little bit darker. And then put it on also 28% opacity and soft light. And these 2 layers do a lot for the light. It lights her skin up, her hair, and it just melds the image together. So you can see the difference between the 2 layers and how they really meld the image together. But really, that's all I did for this piece. This was one of the ones that I was really starting to learn on, and one of the things I was learning on this one was actually about the layers here for the gradients and how they can play with your light, and also these layers here that we put on 50%. and shadow. And this is really important for the depth in an image, and like you saw here with this layer, it can really frame an image out and bring attention to your model right here. So play around with those two. You'll find that really using them a lot will improve your photo manipulations a lot. Light is very important. Let me guys know if you want to see tutorials done of any other pieces. I plan on doing another one next week. Thank you very much for watching, guys.